What's up? I'm at the park, you know, getting some sun on the rest of my body. If you want to see that, you gotta sign up for my OnlyFans. Okay, I'm just kidding. This story basically took place like 6, 7 years ago. I had a coworker who, really nice guy. We got along really well. We were always like joking around back and forth. And I would notice on his wrist, he had like a "What Would Jesus Do" wristband. And I never really brought it up. You know, he would use it as a joke sometimes. He'd be like he would just use it as a punchline, like, oh, like, what would Jesus do? Like, if we're talking about like coworkers or whatever. And then we would go to lunch. And we would start to get into deeper conversations. I think at that point I was starting to like get into spirituality and different things. And we would talk about like, different behaviors, different actions, morality, things like that. And I would notice that a lot of times he would say, but you can be forgiven if you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. It can be forgiven, you can be saved. You can get salvation if you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And he would say that many times. I wouldn't say anything about it. But one day, I don't know, I just felt compelled to be like, what if I don't? What if I don't accept him? And he's like, then, you won't be saved. I was like, what does that mean? Like, what if like I lived a moral life, which that's debatable for sure. But I gave the example of my parents. I said, my parents, for example, like they grew up in a different country. They've lived moral life. They worked hard, they're honest, genuine. They try to help the people around them. They did good by me and all that kind of stuff. And so just because they're not following Christ, like they have their own system, So just because they don't accept him, does that mean that, like what does that mean? That they're going to go to hell? He was like, yeah. He was like, look, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's how it works. He said something to that effect. Like, not that's how it works, but. And, when he said that, it just made me really confused because I replied back to him saying like, yo, like there's billions of people in this world that don't follow Christianity. They have their own system. Like there's like, many paths to God. Like you can see it, right? A lot of the moralities and a lot of these things are very similar across many religions. So you don't accept that? Like, and he's like, listen, I'm not really like a very, let's say a person that like, he was saying like, I don't debate. I don't have that kind of mind to come up with answers and to debate things like that. That's not how my mind is. It's like, but he's like, this is the way. And so I respected whatever he's saying. Basically, he's like, I think he understood my point, but he didn't have an answer for that. And I don't know, that always, it kind of put me off, man. So I'm just sharing this story just more as like a curiosity, or maybe as like a way to understand, is that really how it works in Christianity? Like, is there not, an acceptance that there's just other, forms or paths of spirituality or, routes to God or holiness or whatever it is? Yeah, just a question to people out there. I don't, judge anybody badly, like, or, whatever religion or philosophy you follow. We all grow up, and then we're exposed to things, and those things become a part of our mind. So, but once we get older, you kind of have the ability to make objective judgments on what's happening, or at least make a curiosity, have a curiosity around things. So, is that really how it works? Just curious, looking to learn from people, sharing the story. Have a good one.